morning, Westeros!
And welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kyle, and we're your Morning Throners.
And welcome back to another episode of your favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners coming at you with Brienne 1. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Great.
I was worried you were going to get the number wrong, Jeff.
Nah, I'm locked in.
No, I was, it was a good one. I kind of like seeing her side. It kind of felt like a dunk setup chapter to me.
Exactly. Just hedge knights all the way. You gotta love it.
Just hedge knight talking.
Well, that too. Yeah, for sure. I meant more of, I guess, kind of like the pacing and the way that it just, like, she has a very dunk vibe too, I guess, even without the hedge knight part of it. Kind of felt like one of those, like an early part of The Sworn Sword, where it was like almost like, all right, I kind of want to get past this, is where I was at. Didn't hate it. Felt like a setup kind of deal, you know?
Yeah, I was pretty bored just listening to the chapter, so I can't imagine it being that good of one to read.
I will say, I love the chapter. I think it was the best chapter of Feast of Crows so far, and I'm not being sarcastic. I loved it. I knew Jeff would hate that I loved it.
You're so biased. It's crazy.
There's definitely some bias.
This chapter sucked.
But
this
I also,
chapter,
like Kyle said,
I wouldn't go that far.
I like
the
Duncan Egg novels.
But
I like the Duncan Egg novels, and this is like kind of like a mini Duncan Egg story. Nothing happened.
Nothing happened in this chapter. We met some stupid ass people, and she talked about Sansa and Jaime.
Nothing happened in the last Duncan Egg book. He stopped a dam. He broke down a dam. That's what happened.
No,
in the entire
there was
book.
more. We had a little bit of. You had some conflict. There was some secrecy. There's some history.
There's some secrecy. Brienne's trying to pretend like she doesn't know who Sansa is. Like we get a little.
She's pretty bad at it, though.
Brienne's just contemplating the people that she's met along the way while trying to find Sansa.
I mean, I don't even know how I'm going to argue this one. I think it's hard to argue against this is kind of like a boring nothing happens chapter, but I like it either way. I still like it. I think a lot of, I'll leave it there.
You can like it because you like the character or you like hedge knights and just kind of conversations, but as the story progressed, this didn't progress it much.
I will say that I think Preston Jacobs has a really good series on like Brienne's arc, like throughout the book. So I was going to say one of the things that he says is in chapters where there seems to be a lot of stuff that's not happening to the plot, that's not contributing to the plot. If it's well written, it's contributing to the theme or something.
That's what I'm saying. The world building. Yeah.
And he has a really good video series. It's long. It's probably like 3 hours long. I sent Jeff part 2 of it because that's the part that focuses mostly on this chapter. But again, I think because I've listened to that series, I kind of see more of the stuff that I'm not going to lie, I definitely wouldn't have seen on the first read through, but again, I don't know if I'm drinking all of his Kool-Aid, but there's some things that kind of like stand out on a reread.
Well, I think there's some things in here that might come back later. Like,
yes,
I mean, there's definitely that weird guy behind the sept or whatever. Not the weird guy, the kid on the horse that she sees early on. I think they talk about him even halfway through, as seeing him go by in the night.
Yep.
There's some other things like that. Some of these people probably come back and whatnot. I don't want to dump all my all my predictions in the beginning here, but it was a good world building chapter. So I mean, I like it for that. It kind of gave some flavor to the people. It kind of put Brienne into perspective.
I think
as well.
you hear Brienne's voice. I don't.
Well, yeah, and like we knew her, right? But we didn't know her. So it's kind of interesting to see. Like it kind of set her up. It was a good kind of base level for her. I mean,
similar to Cersei in that way, but almost like the complete opposite scale.
Yeah.
All right, so we jump in, and Brienne is running around the city of Rosby, Castle Rosby, looking for Sansa.
No, she's looking for a highborn 13-year-old.
Her sister, 10 and 3. I hate the way they count, by the way. Come on, like figure out a different word for that. 10 and 3. Like, let's go.
Blue eyes and auburn hair. Yeah.
She says it over and over and over. I'll hit the quote one time. She says, "I'm looking for a maid of 3 and 10, a highborn maid and very beautiful with blue eyes and auburn hair. She may be traveling with a portly knight of 40 years or perhaps with a fool. Have you seen her?" So she pretty much hits everybody she sees with this question. Yeah. She needs a soundboard.
And it's like, I'm looking for a princess. Is pretty much what she's saying. Like, who else would she be fucking talking about?
I mean, especially when word got out too. Like, I think she's kind of a lunk. Like, just in the way that she's attacking this thing.
Because she didn't realize somebody else was even here. Yeah, like, or anybody else would even be looking for her.
Yeah.
Because that's what happens at the end, right? Like, not to get too far ahead, is she's like, oh shit, other people are looking for her. I gotta go faster.
Yeah, there's a part where she's like, I hope wherever you are, you're hidden well. And she's like, fuck, but that's gonna make my job harder too, which is already hard to begin with. Yeah.
So yeah, she's a lunk, Jeff. You're right.
Yep. She's asking around. She ends up asking like the last two like young boys about her, and I don't know. They were like jokingly, well, if we do see her, she's not gonna be a maid much longer. Like, being immature. And then as she's like peeking through the crowd of like checking off every person of Rosby, there's a cat, not an actual cat, a dude on a horse across the way. She's like, I didn't ask him, but she doesn't bother to. She's like, fuck it, he's not gonna know anything either. Let me
knew anything.
Move on my way to Duskendale.
She needs to go ask Zombie Cat. Is what she needs to do.
Yeah, meet up with her.
Yeah.
Or just be like, hey, Zombie Cat, can I stop this? Like, can you free me from this oath? Because it's kind of crazy at this point.
No, just tell me where Sansa is, or help me find Sansa. Because obviously,
Cat doesn't know where Sansa is.
How do you know that? She fucking came back from the dead.
Does Zombie Cat remember the oath? Or is she just be like, who the...
No, she remembered who killed her, right? That was like the only thing.
Brienne does think in here somewhere like, oh, no oath is as solemn as an oath sworn to some, like a dead one.
A dead person. Okay. Yeah. Point that out when we get to that. I missed that.
So where she's right before when she's like leaving, she's thinking like, where could Sansa be? Not in King's Landing, or she'd be found by now. She's like, where would I go? I'd go to my dad. She doesn't have a dad anymore. She doesn't have anything anymore.
She doesn't have a mom or a brother or a home.
Or it's like go home to my dad. Exactly. Yeah. It's like she can't go home or to her dad. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, she might be in the next town over or on a ship to Ashai. One seems as likely as the next, and it's like.
Yeah, who the fuck?
She's like,
knows?
well, he wasn't in Rosby, so she was elsewhere. And she's like, but elsewhere is a big place. There's a quote like that somewhere too that was like kind of cool. I don't have the exact quote.
Yeah, no, that one I did see. Yeah, it's like Westeros is huge. Like,
all right, so she's aiming for Duskendale. We find out later, really, because Duskendale has a port, right? Like that's where the biggest port.
I think it not just the biggest port. It's also she heard some boats were headed here, right? Like weren't a couple fishing boats
King's
or something?
Landing's fucked up from the battle. Is that what Jeff said? Yeah. So this is the biggest port. So like this is where all the trade that normally goes to King's Landing. So I think her thought
has to go somewhere. Yeah.
Well, she's like, Sansa can't go on the King's Road. That's way too dangerous in these times for a little girl. So she's probably going by boat wherever she's going. She's probably going by boat, which she's right about that, right? Sansa did go by boat.
Well, didn't she say what's his name? She called him the drunk the whole time.
Dantos.
Isn't Dantos from Duskendale?
Yes. That's
so
where his name was from too.
Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the going home too, right? Like she said, like that was my connection as well. Yeah, like it's like she can't go to her home, so one of them's gonna go home, kind of thing. So, like, because that's where your connections are.
Exactly.
It's good thought.
Yep. All right, so fuck, Sansa's nowhere, but no ships left. So fuck. Like, was Jaime messing with me? Like, is she dead? Did they kill her and put her in an unmarked grave where, like, I'll never be able to find her? Is this one last joke of Jaime to me? And she doesn't believe that. She thinks Jaime's an honorable man now. Like, he wouldn't do that to her. He gave me Oathkeeper.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, that right there is a pretty good sign of faith, I think.
He also gave her a bunch of other stuff.
Yeah, a ton of money.
A ton of money, the horse.
And a letter from the king.
Shield, the letter from the king. Yeah, exactly. So...
but I mean, even Oathkeeper is a huge like.
I mean, it's probably. I mean, just
even if he's not going to use it, like
it's almost invaluable, right? Just because we know Valyrian steals at a scarcity.
Yeah, even Tywin one of these puppies for a really long time until now he had one. Jamie's just like, here you go.
And Jaime just gifted it away. Just a re-gift. Is that the quickest re-gift ever of like of something that's of so much value?
Yeah, probably. And it's cool because we saw that scene from his side too.
Yes.
Yeah. So she also thinks that like the promise is the cat, right? I told her that I would do this, and Jaime then had told her like, well, don't worry about the young one. She's got to be dead. We haven't heard from her forever. We're actually sending a fake Arya up north.
Yep, and we saw that in the last Jaime chapter. Storm Swords.
Yeah, I do remember that one. Yep. Yeah, so the quote was, she had promised Lady Catelyn that she would bring back her daughters, and no promise was as solemn as one sworn to the dead. So that was what I wanted. I missed that the first.
The living dead.
Yeah, the undead.
The real alive.
Yeah, exactly. But I just, like I said, I wanted you to highlight it. Yep. There it is. Yep. All right. Anyway.
Yep. So then she comes across the Hedge Knights, the boys.
Yep. Sir Creighton and Sir Illiford Penniless.
Yep. Sir Creighton Longbow and Sir Illiford the Penniless.
What a bunch of. I mean, Longbow at least is just like, shut up, dude. I don't want to hear you talk anymore.
He's a dope.
Yeah, they're tall talkers. Creighton is the tall talker. Illifer seems more down to earth.
It's the type of people you need. You need some film on Sir Creighton Longbow, like all the. Oh yeah, you did all that, Sir Longbow. Like, show me.
The thing is, we don't know. It's almost like, hey, you've never seen me and Batman in a room together, so
it's true.
I don't know. I could be Batman. He could. We weren't there. We weren't there
You're
when he
too
was
tall to be Batman, and I'm athletic.
You know what I mean? Like, we weren't at the Blackwater. I mean, we do have some people. What if, like, I should have been paying attention in like those Davos and like Tyrion chapters? Like, was there a guy with this sigil just going crazy? I'm pretty sure there's not, or else it would be on the wiki. But you know what I mean? That's a kind of
flaming chicken,
deep kind of pull I would love.
Well, his isn't a flaming chicken, but he killed the guy with the flaming.
Yep, I have his a little bit later. Yeah. Yep. So they meet him. They call her Sir. Everyone thinks she's a guy.
The whole chapter. I mean,
yeah, exactly. That's kind of what I was saying. The baseline for her is like, this is the part where we get to feel her pain essentially, and her fucking day-to-day annoyance at everybody just misgendering her.
Yeah, I mean, she is tall and strong, and she's got a helmet on. Right.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and it's a time when the amount of women in armor is probably close to zero.
She's probably one. Or I guess there's some Mormont ladies running around with.
Yeah, but I think full helm, full regalia, and she also had like the bat shield. Like she had no identifying marks. I mean,
or misidentifying marks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's what I guess what I'm getting at is like she's flying something that nobody flies, so nobody knows who she is.
What?
So
little mystery night action.
Yep.
All right. So they're sharing war stories, and they're like, "Oh, you're a lady. We'll escort you to Duskendale. That's the least we could do." And she's like, "I could take both of you motherfuckers. Like, you don't even know. I got this fake sword on my belt. Like, don't make me rip out Oathkeeper on you guys."
Yeah.
I don't even know if she would though. Like, I think she could take them with the. It's not fake, right? It's like just not a nice
it's
sword.
Just not Valyrian steel.
Yeah. Well, it's just a sword.
It's just
a normal sword.
It's just hardened steel.
Yeah, because one's big and fat, and the other one's tall and lanky and old, right? Like, I don't know if we got to the full description of them, but
they're both. One says the one's old. I think he says 60.
Yeah,
that's younger than 60, and the other one,
Illy, right?
That's Illifer.
It was like if he was a day, he was 60.
Exactly. So no younger than 60, and if he was, and the other one was old but not as old. So probably
and fat,
45,
big and round. Because the one guy later, he's like, you ain't having trouble staying fat.
Yeah, and he's the talker. And so even here, he's like, I'm Sir Creighton Longbow, of who the singers sing. And Brienne's like, if there are any songs about him, I don't know them.
I don't know that shit.
Yeah,
it hasn't reached King's Landing yet.
Yeah. So one of the weird things, I don't know if I'm sure you guys have noticed it. I don't know, Jeff, maybe not on this one if you're listening to it, but like when they describe sigils, they just like make up weird words or like use words in ways that they don't make sense. So here, Creighton's sigil is a green field with a brown chief, and Illifer's is a golden ermine jraijin. So I looked this up. Heraldry has its own like whole dictionary where just like a bend means like a diagonal slash from like top left to bottom right. So like I think the Mad Mouse is like a brown bend on a blue field with a mouse on top. And like it's a way that you can like describe it in words and know exactly what it means. So if you look up chief, it means that like the top little bit, almost just like a banner at the top, is a different color. So he is a green with a little brown strip. That's literally it. Just a really plain, no device on it. Just green, brown strip at the top.
Interesting.
For Creighton. And Illifer is golden ermine jraijin. Jraijin means like pinwheeled. So like kind of divide the shield into 8 sections. And every other color is a different thing. Gold is gold. Ermine. Do you know what ermine is?
Ermine is another color. Is it bluish?
It's not like a color. It's like a pattern. It's almost like plaid. It's not like plaid, but it's like saying plaid. Like
I know what you're saying. I understand.
It's like white with like white with like black dots, but they're not dots. They're like a weird shape. It looks almost like an anchor.
But like people wouldn't recognize like, oh, there's the green and white pinwheel. That must be Sir Illiford Pinwheel. It's just what he had a shield and he was like, all right, paint it this way for
no. I don't think anyone would notice this any more than like the winged chalice for like Sir Arlen. But I think the point is you can say it in words and know exactly what it is, even if it seems to be weird.
For sure.
Design.
There's a dictionary behind it. But I'm just saying like their shields are more so like, all right, we're in the locker room, about to gear up for war. Like, where's my shield? Oh, it's the green and white pinwheely one.
Yeah, exactly.
Where is this? Because I want to see that his is ermine. Because everything I'm finding for ermine is the stoat, man.
It's right after the introduction.
Which is the stoat, which is a animal that looks like a ferret.
It's probably the Game of Thrones word.
It says I have the honor of being Sir Creighton Longbow. It's a little bit after that. Right after the
Okay, yeah.
introduction.
Green shield showed only a brown chief and a deep gouge made by some battle axe. Illiford bore gold and ermine jraijin. Okay, we're spending too much time on this, but anyway,
Look up ermine heraldry. That's what you gotta do.
Okay.
Sorry. And it looks like it is based off maybe that animal because it looks like it has spots on it or something. Sometimes, but yeah,
Is a fur. Yeah, white background with a pattern of black shapes representing the winter coat of the stoat. Yeah, there you go. Okay.
yeah. So it's a
Cool.
pattern that represents the animal, I guess. Yep, there you go.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. Yeah, I kind of went down a weird heraldry rabbit hole that I know George also likes to. That we don't have to go too deep on.
So while we're talking about shields, you know, they're sitting down, they're talking some more, and Illiford is like, yeah, he gets mad about Brienne's shield, and not that she even, I don't even know if she knows the history behind it, but it means a lot to Illiford.
It's not even her shield; it's a shield that Jamie took.
Right.
Is it as bad as like wearing like SS stuff, or is it? I couldn't tell about. I guess the deeds that this family did.
So I think we have heard that one of the people that she meant, it gets confusing here because I think two of them get mentioned. Lucas Lawson and Manfred Lawson are the people of this house. Manfred Lawson of the Black Hood. We heard about a Manfred Lawson in the Sworn Sword. He had betrayed Daemon Targaryen, the rightful king,
Okay.
and probably went over to the Black Dragon, right? So
Okay.
that it's kind of like maybe like you're saying he's kind of like a Benedict Arnold type guy, like a traitor.
No. I was saying,
well,
I
you
was
were saying
saying
worse.
worse,
You were saying
like
Nazis,
extermination. Yeah, like awful stuff. But
However,
anyway.
the Manfred spelling in the Sworn Sword is different than the Manfred spelling in this one. Most people think it's the same Manfred and it's a typo, but it could be two different people. So we don't
He
know.
just changed the spelling.
And he
Okay.
might have probably did worse stuff because the Black Hood, it was like his nickname, and that doesn't seem to have anything to do with betraying Daemon Daemon Targaryen.
Yeah, I mean, okay, yeah, Manfred O, the Black Hood, his son. Yeah.
And where the disgrace of or the shame of this shield, you're muted, Nelson?
No, I'm trying to think. Am I saying that right? Daemon Targaryen? Who's the Blackfire?
Daron?
Daemon Blackfire. I'm not saying the right Targaryen.
Daemon
right?
Blackfire, Daron Targaryen. Act like you read the books before.
I can't think.
No, it's hard, man.
I'm going to edit around it.
I am glad. No, I think you should stumble occasionally, man. This stuff is hard. You can fix it in post. Like, go ahead and be like, Editor Nelson, it was Daemon Targaryen or whatever. But like,
it's Daemon Blackfire, Daron Targaryen. Act like you read the books before.
Daemon Blackfire,
I just said that.
Daron Targaryen.
I just
You did,
said
yeah.
that.
Wow, Jeff
Can
was
you
right.
keep all that in? If I'm gonna
not
listen.
Gonna keep it all in, but I'll keep you being right in.
I'm gonna scrub to exactly where I think it's at, and then if you don't give me my credits,
I'll write it down and let you know.
yeah. All right. So what really comes from the shield is like the only reason you'd be walking around with this shield of shame is to hide the shame that you've actually done, and now he has ID'd her as Renly's murderer.
So it's one thing I was thinking here is like it's kind of funny that a lot of these like George characters don't have the problem that Jeff like pointed out kind of early on of this like photo ID. Like there's no photo ID, you can kind of get away with anything. Like Tyrion, not really. The Hound, not really. Brienne, not really. Like
there are certain characters that have like such distinct characteristics.
well,
like the three.
I mean, this
you
goes
just
back
named.
to earlier when we said, we said one of one, right? Brienne's the one woman in armor potentially here. So like, yeah,
that's probably 6'5".
Yes, exactly.
You know, the way that
Definitely,
she's
'cause
talked about. Tyrion's got no face right now, and he's
yeah.
you know
They're all also highborn, so they're like celebrities pretty much in this world.
yeah. They've
Yeah.
probably been seen around a little bit.
They're in all the
But
tabloids.
So they go through this whole thing about her like needing to swear to the gods. So she swears all to the seven. She does a really good job that they basically forgive her. Like, oh, okay, like it's in the gods' hands now. You're cool. Eat our trout.
So did that
Yeah, I mean,
quote ring weird to you at all? I don't know where I've heard this before because I'm not a huge history buff, but that quote where she's like, oh yeah, she swears good. Specifically the part where he's like, well, because she sweared if she lied, the gods will sort them out. It's not even exact, but there was like I think it was a battle or a siege or something in like a crusade where basically a bunch of like, I think crusaders for the Catholics were taking over the city and there was like heretics. So most of the city, like, I don't know what the heretics mean, but they were like for a different religion. But like, there was a decent amount of Catholics still in there. But they were like, we don't really know how to tell them apart. And if we let them say, then a lot of the heretics are just going to say they're Catholics to get out for free. So the commanders like kill them all. God will sort them out.
I don't know.
I mean, that's a pretty common thing. Kill them all and let God sort them out.
I think it's been referenced in a lot of stuff because of that battle, but yeah, so.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know where it came from, but I've definitely heard kill them all and let God sort them out.
Yep. All right. So now that she's got Renly on the mind, she's got to think back to the first time she met the guy, because he meant a lot more to her than just a king. She loved this cat.
Yeah, and we know this is a big thing for her. So, Kyle, you want to hit that, like, 2-paragraph Renly Baratheon?
Renly Baratheon had been more than a king to her. She had loved him since he first came to Tarth on his leisurely lord's progress to mark his coming of age. Her father welcomed him with a feast and commanded her to attend, elsewise she would have hidden in her room like some wounded beast. She had been no older than Sansa, more afraid of sniggers than of swords. They will know about the rose, she told Lord Selwyn. They will laugh at me, but the even star would not relent. And Renly Baratheon had shown her every courtesy as if she were a proper maid, and pretty, even danced with her, and in his arms she'd felt graceful, and her feet had floated across the floor. Later, others begged a dance of her, because of his example. From that day forth, she wanted only to be close to Lord Renly, to serve him and protect him. But in the end, she failed him. Renly died in my arms, but I did not kill him.
Yep.
I think this is kind of sad. Like, Renly didn't... I mean, it's
of course
like
it's fucking sad.
It's just his half a crush, right? Because Renly is a good-looking guy and all that. So I think half of it's just like a crush, which is understandable. But it's sad that like Brienne kind of like just falls head over heels because this guy is like relatively nice to her. Like he doesn't like buy her flowers or like take her on like a. He just dances with her one time and is like kind of.
When
nice.
it even sounds like she might have given him a flower.
It meant more than a flower or a box of chocolates. A little just kindness. A little.
It was the
courtesy.
first person to ever be nice to her. Yeah.
Where do you see about that about a flower con? Did I miss that?
She said they will know about the rose. She told Lord Selwyn.
Oh, gotcha.
So did like she get him a rose or something? What's that about?
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
You don't know. Uh-oh.
Moving on.
All right.
I did miss that in this quote though.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
I caught it.
It sticks out to me now, and I'm not going to say anything more about it, but yeah, I did miss it.
It's cool.
All right, so it's time for Betty Bed. They're like, all right, champ, you get first watch.
Yeah, they must trust her, right? Like, you give the new person first watch, like, you trust them, I think. Or maybe you're staying up and you don't trust them.
It's pretty bold. You would think that you wouldn't give them first watch. You'd give them no watch.
I think there's some heavy sexism going on here. They just, like, don't think of her at all as a threat.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That's true. That makes more sense. That makes way more sense. But she could still rob them and get off. She's got.
They also just accused her of killing Renly. So.
I was gonna say that makes them fucking stupid. It's like everybody else that's like, oh, they're smart and they're doing this and doing all this stuff in the background, but they're also the dumbest fucking people you know. And it's like, how do you justify these two completely conflicting ideas in your brain? Like, yeah, like oh yeah, you just murdered this dude. We don't trust you. You can't hang out with us. But oh, you're a woman, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
Like, you can't do anything. We'll go to sleep. Yeah. It's really weird.
And again, I'm not saying that's what they're thinking. I just think that's, if it wasn't for them accusing her of just murdering somebody else, like I think that's definitely what I would think, is that they just fall asleep because they respect her.
Underestimate
her.
Under respect. Yeah. All right. So she takes first watch and she was like, well, whatever. Like, I never really felt, I'm not going to sleep tonight. 2, I think she does kind of doze off a little bit because breakfast kind of sneaks up on her, and it doesn't seem like she was completely there.
She falls asleep on this one.
Yeah, so I'm not planning on sleeping, and I've never really ever felt comfortable being around men just because of the threat of rape, which has happened.
She said it was a lesson she had learned beneath the walls of Highgarden, and again when she and Jaime had fallen into the hands of the brave companions. So I will say that doesn't mean that she actually was ever raped, because we know with Jaime she wasn't. She just knew that there was a very heavy threat.
Any night it could have been like, all right, screw it, let's take this girl.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. I'm not saying that she wasn't, because she kind of alludes it to here. I think this quote
something happened at Highgarden, right?
Exactly.
Which we don't know about.
Yep.
So she stays up and she's thinking about Sansa now, right? Like, man, like, is she gets cold and she's like, is Sansa cold right now? Like,
well, is here where she talks shit on Tyrion too, or she thinks shit on Tyrion?
It's about to be, yeah. So she gets cold. She's like, is Sansa cold? Where is she? Is she out and about on her own? Like, why would she leave? Did Tyrion make her kill Joffrey? Like, what is her motive in all this? What is Tyrion's implication? Implication, the right word?
Motivation.
Involvement. Like, what's going? Like, what is the whole deal? Like, no one really likes Tyrion. He's just as dangerous as the rest of the Lannisters, or rumored
she says
to
he's
be.
like the worst, like the
worst,
cruelest
yeah.
of them, and she's like maybe Sansa was trying to get away from him as much as anything else.
Because she'd heard other people say that too.
I think this is weird though, because who has she spent the most time with, Lannister wise?
Jaime,
the Kingslayer.
Yeah, but like his opinion of Tyrion is like if Tyrion's gonna give a character witness,
It's
you're
his
choosing
boy.
Tyrion.
But has he talked to her about that a whole lot?
I don't know, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, we just don't know how much Jaime has talked about Tyrion in their
probably
in their
not
travels,
a lot,
but for
still,
sure,
yeah.
like he's definitely the only Lannister that likes Tyrion.
Yeah,
like if to your point,
sure.
so you're exactly right. But
like she said she talked to Brella, who was one of Sansa's maids. That's where she got a lot of this info. So she probably just didn't like Tyrion, which is understandable. But yeah, I thought that was kind of weird.
yeah. So,
well, I thought it was kind of fitting. Maybe this isn't even the only time she says something about Tyrion being like that, but it was fitting that we looked at our kill count, and he's actually the most dangerous one in the book so far.
Yeah, that's true.
he's actually the one that they should be singing about the Blackwater.
Besides inanimate objects and groups of men, Tyrion has the most kills on page. Yep.
Yeah. So anyway.
So yeah, next day they set out, and I think this is kind of like actually a really important part.
She
when
talks
they
to
wake
these
up.
guys about at night first, right? And one of them says, "I did see a boy ride by on a horse."
Well, when they wake up, I think before they even talk, I think is a really important point. She falls asleep by accident, right?
Sorry.
She didn't want to fall asleep because of threat of rape. We talked about that. She does, and she wakes up, and I think for a second she's like afraid and like, "Oh, I'm glad I woke up before anything happened." And she wakes up, and these guys are just like going about their business. Like they had no intention to do anything bad. Nothing bad happened, and they're like, she's like, these guys might be not the best. Like this guy's a tall talker, and like the other guy's kind of crude and blunt and accused me of murder, but like they didn't rape me, so they're pretty good guys.
Yeah, they didn't take my shit and leave me here. Like the other guy's making breakfast. Like this guy's just
That's
taking a
another
piss.
point. Even without raping her, she did put all her saddlebags down, and they like. You think if they would have gone through them, maybe they would have left. They probably didn't even.
You gotta
go through
sleep.
them,
You gotta
right?
sleep on your saddlebags. Your saddlebags got to become your pillow.
Yeah.
So, but she said she did put them near a tree, so she didn't.
Yep.
But yeah. So again, she's like, it was untouched. These guys are pretty good guys.
Acorn paste though.
Yep.
Sounds gross.
It's definitely gross. So did anybody walk by while I was sleeping, while you all were on watch? And yeah, a lot of people walked by, and no girls, autumn hair with blue eyes, but there was a farm boy on a horse, which callback, right?
Yep.
Same description. And then a dozen men, I think it was.
Half dozen men, afoot with staves and sides. They stopped for a long look at our horses, but I showed them a glimpse of my steel and told them to be along their way. Rough fellows by the look of them. And
There's no way these
too,
guys fucking look.
but ne'er
Creighton
so
Longbow,
desperate as
baby.
to trifle with Sir Creighton Longbow.
I need to see. We need a picture of Sir Creighton Longbow.
Creighton needs a body cam. That's what Creighton needs.
Yeah, there might have been this crowd of people that walked by, and they could have just been like farmers going to the field, right, and just walked
There
past.
could have been no one. Creighton slept the entire time.
No,
Creighton definitely
no, but
slept on his watch and was dreaming about it.
He saw the kid that we saw earlier though.
Yeah,
he fell
sure,
asleep
sure.
after
Yeah,
that,
immediately
and then he
after.
dreamed. He saw that
I know,
kid,
but
and
I
then
mean,
he dreamed the rest.
That gives some credence to the second story to me, I guess is what I'm trying to say, and that's why I think it was probably just like some farmers or something walking past, and he's like, I saw him looking at me.
We've never
Yeah,
seen
needs a bun.
Creighton Longbow and Renly's ghost in the same room.
Yeah.
He could have been Renly's
Yeah.
ghost at the Battle of Blackwater, slaying all those people.
True.
Yeah.
We don't know.
All right, so they start up the Rosby Road to Duskendale, and they come upon people chanting, praying, walking towards King's Landing. So they're going in opposite directions, right?
Yep.
They're begging brothers. They're taking bones to Baelor, the Blessed, which is the Sept, right? They want to take them to
It's
the
where
Sept
Ned
to get
died.
blessed.
Yep.
Weird conversation. I don't have many details about.
One big guy's got a star.
Is that the same thing that? No, he had an axe, right?
He had an
Our
axe
other
and a
dude.
star carved in his chest.
No, our other dude, Aaron or Arrow or whatever, had a axe stamped on him, right?
Oh yeah, Arya had a brand. He got
Arya.
branded.
Yeah, but it's an axe,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. I think it's a
Yeah.
shape of an axe. Yep.
Yeah, so maybe it's something like him,
Yeah.
but it's
I didn't think about that. That's a good point. Like definitely like a sign of their faith to this.
because I was trying to figure out who this dude was, you know. So anyway,
Yep.
Go ahead.
And then there's a small man in Septon's robes with a crystal on a thong about his neck. Thong, this threw me for a loop. I know we've heard it before, but I
String.
never looked into it. I think it just means leather necklace.
Yeah,
I look up.
it's just like a string.
Again, that's
like
a hard one to Google because you Google thong, you're not going to get leather necklace.
Well, thong is also a sandal, Nelson.
I think I found that too. So you have to be like thong medieval necklace, and it's like leather. Yeah. So he had a lean, sharp face, short beard, grizzled gray and brown, thin hair, pulled back, knotted behind his head. Feet were bare and black. Yeah, so a lot of these guys aren't even wearing shoes.
Well, they're begging brothers, right? They're supposed to be poor. That's the whole point.
Yep. And he kind of says, like, who are you guys? And that's like his thing, is he says, we're the sparrows. The sparrow is the humblest and most common of birds, as we are the humblest and most common of men. These are the bones of holy men murdered for their faith. They served the seven even unto death. Some starved, some were tortured. Seps have been despoiled, maidens and mothers raped by godless men and demon worshippers. Even silent sisters have been molested. Our mother above cries out in her anguish. It is time for all anointed knights to forsake their worldly matters and defend our holy faith. Come with us to the city if you love the seven. And they're like, how much for how much? Like,
yeah, back way.
Yeah. That's pretty much what Illifer says right away.
Like, sure, yeah, I'm down. Yeah.
Yeah.
But you got to pass. Yeah, I'm already penniless, man. Like, I need money for this.
Yeah, and they get some like evil looks for a second. Like, wait, you're not going to help us? And these guys are like thumping their clubs in their hands.
Yeah,
and the kind of this small leader, Septon guys, like, worry not. They're poor fellows too on their own journey. Let them go. And they keep going on chanting. They all Brienne asks them about
keep on singing.
The maid of 3 and 10, and they're like, we don't know. They're also, this Septon guy who's in charge is the one pulling this wain. Like, they don't have horses carrying this cart full of bones.
Yeah.
This
It's
guy,
just a person.
Like, the guy
dragging it along.
This guy who seems to be the one like talking for the group is the one pulling it. Like, you'd think you'd have like
leaders lead from the front, Nelson, not the back.
Yeah, lead by example.
Yeah,
especially of this group, the begging brothers, right? Like, I mean, they're all supposed to be poor, so that might be he's the poorest of them all.
One says they are the poor fellows, and the other one says they're the sparrows.
Well, no, he doesn't say they're sparrows.
Brothers.
He says he just says we are. Like, sparrows don't need gold, is what he says. And he's like, what do you mean sparrows? And he says, yeah.
All right. So she does think to herself, like, damn, all these Septon, like, who would kill Septons, right? Who would rape the Silent Sisters? Well, Brienne knows who these people are because she watched the Brave Companions do it.
At least some of them. I was trying to think about this. I think we've probably seen this at least 3 times, maybe up to 5 or 6 times, right? So Brienne talks about one here. We definitely saw this. It's when she and Jaime were captured by the Bloody Mummers. They were using a Septon strung up as target practice. I think there's a time when Arya's with the Brave, or the Knights of the Hollow Hill. I think they attack a group of the Bloody Mummers who have already attacked a Sept and are now like chilling there with like a bunch of people held up. Like, they've attacked the whole town, but they're like chilling up and did some stuff with, like, I think the Septon or something. But I'm just saying, I think we've had like a bunch of this, maybe even the Mountains Men early on in Game of Thrones. So again, I think it's just cool that we've seen, I feel like, a lot of attacks specifically against like religious order, specific the faith, and it's like it's amounting to something now.
Well, for sure. And I mean, it kind of lends to what we're seeing elsewhere too, with like some of these other religions kind of gaining power, it seems. Like the red, whatever's going on with the fire and all that. Like, it's the 7 did it to the old gods, and now it's kind of happening to the 7.
And like you said, maybe it's because the 7 doesn't have anything in its corner. Like, the red god is doing some magic.
Yeah, like
pull your own weight, God. So Silent Sisters, they start riding again. Next, they come along.
They come across Shadrick.
They come across this merchant.
Yeah,
and who has
he's got a knight with him too. Yeah. So merchant's very suspecting of these cats. He's like, yo, I got a crossbow. Like, I'm ready to pull this thing. I got goods. Do we know what goods he's traveling with? Does he got
like 2 wagons?
He's got something,
or a wagon,
6
one
dudes
wagon
or something walking around.
In these days, with all the robbers and outlaws on the road, like, you can't be too careful.
Yep, exactly.
So, all right, like, let's. Have you seen a maid of auburn hair, blue eyes, of 10 and 3? You're like, no, we haven't. Let's keep rolling. But the knight, man, bam! What's this guy's name? He's a cookie.
Sir Shadrick.
Yeah.
Sir Shadrick knows his shit, man.
Well, this is where he calls Creighton fat, right? He's like, the roads are full of drunken fools.
Creighton just wants to party up with everybody. He's like, well, join us. 4 is better than 3, or 4 is better than 1. Well, and he's like,
you guys, you can't be a trustworthy knight, like, because, like, if it's hard right now, there's not much food around, so a good knight would share that food, and here you are being fat.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to get food or something like that. Yeah, you're fat. Yeah. He's like, I've done all right.
Yeah.
He's like, 4 blades better than 1. Let's team up. They do. Sir Sadric's like, Merton runs it by Sadric, and Sadric's like, yeah, he's old, he's fat, and she's a woman, so yeah, they're all good. They're all fine. I'm not scared of them.
They actually say three blades are better than one, and she thinks to herself 4 blades because they're not counting her.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
I do not doubt Sir Chadrick's valor, but he seems small, and 3 blades are better than 1. And 4 blades, thought Brienne, but she held her tongue.
Yeah, because she has a blade.
Well, because she's the one that matters.
Yeah, she's good. Yeah.
And I'm probably the best. We don't know this Shadrick cat. He seems like he's a little bit more fit to fight, but seems like I just fought like maybe the best swordsman ever.
Yes,
a little bit ago, and
I'm still here. Yeah,
tag you guys up. Yeah. So he's calling Brienne a wench too, which is it's just bringing her back to flashbacks.
She's like, doesn't even matter anymore. Like I took it from Jamie. Who are you?
You're nothing. You're a nothing.
Yep. And she kind of does say, "Who are you?" And she's like, "Well, I'm Sir Cedric, Shady Glen. They call me the Mad Mouse." He's got the mouse.
Dope little
Bendy,
sigil.
brown on blue. Bendy is the diagonal stripe.
Yeah. No one cares.
He says the brown is for the lands I've gone. Blue is for the rivers I've gone. Mouse is me.
Cross.
And she's like, "Are you mad?" And he's like, "Of course. A normal mouse runs away from a fight. The mad mouse runs into one." And she's like, "Well, you must not have found too many." And he's like, "Well, I'm not a Tory knight, but if I'm being honest, I was in the Blackwater, unlike Sir Creighton." So this guy's saying Creighton wasn't even there.
Just calls him out.
Yeah.
Like, I think Creighton was probably at least there. Maybe he didn't kill a dozen men or whatever,
I don't know.
but I think
he was probably
in
the back. He wasn't leading from the front.
This guy doesn't know shit either, though.
But I lost. So I had to do a ransom. I don't know how that works. Maybe just like a tournament. You just got to buy all your shit back. But he's basically like, yeah, now I'm broke. So I need some money. And turns out, she says something like, "Oh, you and Sir Creighton have something in common." Then, oh, he's like, "I saved my valor for battle." She's like, "Oh, you and Sir Creighton have something in common." And then he says all this about the Blackwater, and he's like, "And I think me and you share something in common. We're on the same quest. I also seek Sansa Stark." And Brienne's like,
"What? What?
Yeah, this is just a cover. Yeah,
I don't.
Sansa Stark. Never heard of her.
Is there a Sansa Stark?
Then why would you even be looking for her? Yeah,
exactly. He's like, "For love," and she's like, "Love? What do you mean love?" And he's like, "Love of gold." Varys offered a big bag of it.
Yeah, and we're not the only two out here looking for it since the bounty's been placed. Like, it's kind of strange that, I mean, is Shadrick just the smartest hedge knight, or is like out of all the people that Brienne's talked to, like no one else has put 2 and 2 together? You know what I mean?
I mean, there's might be more people.
Sansa.
That it's Sansa.
Yeah, or
like
maybe
there's got to be a
didn't say it to
description
her.
on the bounty, like a scribbled drawing of what she kind of looks like. Like if you're putting up like wanted posters.
That's the other thing I was going off of. Is
she's got to be like one of the first ones on the look, right? Like,
nah, I think she even says it. She says it herself that she should have went out right away.
Oh yeah, earlier. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So like right after Joffrey's dead, I'm sure Varys, as the
She's
person,
hanging
had
out.
to put out the whispers somehow.
Brienne and Jaime weren't even in the city for the wedding, so they weren't there when Joffrey died. So there was definitely people ahead of them, right? So
gotcha.
But yeah, so he brings up Dantos, and he's like, "I don't know who Sansa is. I'm looking for my sister." And he's like, "Oh, that's interesting. Didn't you say your sister was with a knight, or was it a fool who was 40?
Or a drunken fool that might have been around 40?"
So that's interesting because
with a red face,
Dantos also went missing the same night as Joffrey's wedding. And she's like, "Oh fuck, I'm an idiot." Even Jaime didn't make me feel as stupid. And she had heard about Dantos from Brella.
I mean, it was a pretty, like I said earlier, it was a pretty obvious Sansa description.
Like, even if you find a girl that's like, I don't know, like,
are they just bringing like every redheaded teenage girl in front of Brienne? Like,
Sansa,
she
that's
like
true.
not like she doesn't know what she looks like.
That's what I'm saying. Like, you know that game, Guess Who? Hey, does your guy have a mustache? If Brienne's playing that game, auburn hair, blue eyes, young girl,
woman,
there's still like
13
20 people, not 20, but there's still a
probably
few.
4. There's probably still 4 on the Guess Who board, which has 25 people or so.
And she doesn't know who she's looking for. So, like, how are we narrowing it down here, Brienne? That's what. And is it like, oh, we need the fat 40-year-old knight in the background / fool?
Yeah, right.
Like,
or does she need to be wearing a direwolf brooch on her jacket?
Yeah, like, and like you'd think would Brienne? I don't know how prevalent hair dye is, but that's like kind of. Can they do that? Like, is that a thing? Like, how many people do that?
Yeah, I mean, cut probably is the answer.
Haircut,
the
easier.
Arya treatment.
They didn't have it in And Egg's time, right? Egg was shaving his head where he could have been dyeing it.
Yeah, it's the Arya, the Egg. Yeah.
Yeah, Sansa just has to pretend she has lice.
Yeah, Egg wouldn't even have had to bleach it first. He could have dyed it any color he wanted. This was like white, right?
Yep.
But all right, so now we have this new squad. We got the merchant, we got his knight, and then our three that we've been, or the two that have been with Brienne, and they're going to the Old Stone Inn, baby. Sir Creighton he knows the owner. It's cool. We're gonna get some sweet beds.
Again,
and a good
little
meal.
bit of truth to this, but again, it's one of the things that you can't really lie about if you know you're going there, right? Like, we're gonna see the guy. Like, if he's like, "What? Who are you?" Then you know what I mean. But he's like, "I know the guy. We're old time pals. The guy loves me."
It's like when you're a good liar, right? There's a little bit of truth to every lie, right?
Yep.
Did they say that?
Exactly.
All right, so they get to the end. They're like, well, we can't pay for rooms. And now we learn that Jaime stacked Brienne with just silvers, coppers, and even a little small bag of dragons. But probably more important is this note that says, like, help me find Sansa for King Tommen.
I'm on the king's business. Yep. But it was signed in a childish hand by Tommen. So a big childish signature, which gives it probably more legitimacy.
It does give it more, but like who would look at that and be like, this is fake?
Yeah, how are you gonna tell?
Fuck off. Like, someone else, the maester would write this and Tommen would stamp it, right? Like, we know he did that or whatever. He wrote his little name. Like,
let me get my signature guy.
Yeah.
Pawn Stars.
All right. So they get in. The end keeps like, Creighton, you owe me for the last time you were here. Like, fuck you. Brienne covers it all for them. The merchant buys his own room. And then they start sitting down for some beer and meat, right?
Yep, get some goat off the spit.
Locals are talking about Jaime being
when Brienne comes in, they're literally just like, "Holy shit, look at her!
Look at her.
Thing.
Did they?
She might have had her helmet on. But they're like,
what's it called? The stable boy called her sir, right? And she's like,
stable boy called her sir. Yep. And then
I am no sir. Yeah.
But then when she gets inside, they're just like, "Holy!"
They
fuck,
say
look at that.
when one man said, "Have a look at that," she knew she was not speaking of Sir Shadrick.
Yeah, and I feel like that means they know she's a woman because she says she's like big, really big for a woman.
Before she says she could feel their eyes, despite chainmail, cloak, and jerkin. She felt naked when one man said, "Have a look at that."
Yeah. So, and I think she says like she was big. She would have been big for a man.
Oh yeah,
not
for sure.
like not. I still think she
Massive,
would have been
but
like
she's
smaller
big.
than the Hound, but big for a man. Yeah, but like huge for a woman. So I don't think anyone would say, "Look at that," if like a overly large man walked in, but like huge woman. So that's how I think that they're not misgendering her there.
They aren't.
Yep. So they're talking about Jaime. I don't know. They just randomly on the topic of Jaime.
Before that, weird thing here. They sit down and it says the hedge knight. Where they get to meet. Then what it notes it like she doesn't drink. I think is the important point of the line. But it says the hedge knights and the septon wash down their meat with ale. That's what my book says. There's no septon here.
I think it's wrong. Merchant. Yeah.
I was wondering if there was like a former draft where they met the septon in the inn instead of on the road or something like that. It's the only thing I could think because I was like, "Who's the fucking septon?" I went back, like,
or it's just some other dude.
Was one of the locals a septon? It was. I thought
that's the only other option.
It wasn't mentioned, if that's the case, but it wasn't mentioned. So I thought that was weird that it was.
I did notice that, but I didn't. I was like,
I don't know if it matters, but I was like, that's weird. If anybody knows, definitely leave it in the comments. Because
all right, so
so they talked about Jaime. He got his hand bitten off
by a direwolf.
Creighton says he got his hand bitten off by a direwolf. Yeah.
Brienne knows the truth. Does she even tell the truth? She just kind of eats.
Yep. It was not a wolf. Sir Jaime lost his hand to Cahoric's sellsword.
Not technically true. It was a Dothraki sellsword who cut the hand. Cahoric. She's talking about Vargo Hoat, but it was Zolo the Fat's the one who swung the sword.
I mean, Vargo did order it.
Yeah. He who swings the sword.
So Sadric's like this. Well, he's done for. He's not easy to fight with your offhand. And Creighton's like, I can fight as well with either hand. And Sadric's like, I bet.
Oh, yeah? Can you?
Well, I think he's almost being like, I bet you can, meaning like you suck as bad with your right as you would with your left.
I mean, his name is Longbow. Don't you think he got that like by shooting a bow and not fighting with a sword?
I don't know. He seems to talk about his sword
Penniless
skills.
didn't get his name. Penniless didn't get his name for having a lot of money.
I'm just saying it seems like Penniless is the opposite because when the Septon's like, hey, are you going to come to King's Landing with us? Somebody says something and Creighton's like, yeah, we'll come. And Illifer's like, if you have money. Like Creighton's like, well, I'm in for nothing. And Illifer's like, hold on, only if you pay us. But he's the penniless guy. So he seems to be the financially, at least the more financially.
Well, he just
one.
needs the money because he's penniless.
Oh, yeah, I guess
he
you can see it
needs
that
money.
way. Yeah.
Whatever. Brienne hears these guys just jabbing on. She's like, all right, time for me to hit the hay, literally. And just laying there thinking again.
Well, yeah, and then she pulls out the sword.
Yep.
Oathkeeper's
dope.
She's mad because she lost Renly's sword.
Yep, she lost Renly's sword. The Brave Companions took it. Bloody Mummers took it. She does think of a few heroes that had fancy swords. Galadan of Morn, never heard of before. Florian, we know him, obviously. I don't know if we knew he had a fancy sword. Prince Aemon Targaryen, the Dragon Knight, heard of him before, too. I don't know if we knew he had a fancy sword, but the Targaryens kind of have a few Valyrian steel swords, so might have just been one of them. Yep, she's like, Oathkeeper should be in their company. I don't know if she's kind of thinking, like,
No, she said, I'm not worthy to hold this sword. She's like, this sword is fucking sick.
And all the heroes in the past that have had dope swords.
Yeah,
and here's
exactly.
me, the Rainbow Guardsman. I don't know. I forget what their title was.
Yeah, Rainbow. Yeah.
Who let their king die. And here I have the dopest sword that I've ever seen.
Well, yeah, everybody around me is dead. Like, everybody I've been trying to keep alive died, essentially, or Jaime got maimed. And then, no, yeah, exactly.
She had failed Renly. She had failed Lady Catelyn. She must not fail Jaime. He trusts me with his sword. He trusts me with his honor.
So she has full faith in him now. So I mean,
can't fail him.
It's kind of crazy, right? Like, what a change from
yeah, for sure. I think it's interesting because she's not taking credit for the change at all. But like we were talking about last time, like I think losing his hand,
it's 100% her
part of it, but his hand was she was definitely a huge part of it too.
Yep. So she's laying in bed, can't really fall asleep because of the fleas, right? And she does hear the talking. She hears Longbow walking by her room talking about a sigil of a dude that what was it, like a dead bunny or
blood red chicken and his blade was dripping gore.
Come on, who is this? You guys don't know who this is? Blood red chicken sigil?
Is it an actual chicken or is it like the? We don't know
who this is. We don't know who
Fuck
this is.
off now.
It's not a real chicken. Is it like the fighting like gamecock type of thing? Like a Chanticleer?
We don't know who this one is. I think there is a sigil in Doran who has someone's like a cockatrice, which is like a half dragon chicken thing. I don't know where I've seen online.
I think they mentioned that sigil when Oberyn came to.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
that's
this
what I was thinking.
For this one, what people say is there is somebody in the Stormlands who has a yellow chicken on a red field. And sometimes when bastards are born to high-born families, they invert. So I think that's a huge stretch because this family is a family I don't think it's been mentioned like prominently in the main series. It's probably from like an appendix or a world book. So I think it's a huge stretch. I think if anything, it does seem like an important line, right? Like the weird one line of just a sigil. I think if anything, this is like somebody we have yet to be seen.
Okay.
Yeah. And she's like, all right, fuck this. I can't lay around here. I need to go find my girl.
Well, that was always the plan, right? Like, she went up to fake him out. Like, I'm going to bed, and then she waited for them to go to bed so that she could leave.
Oh, you think?
yeah,
maybe
100%.
Maybe she'd wake up a little bit earlier.
Because she said scratching helped keep her awake when the fleas showed up, and like she wanted to be awake so that she could leave.
And on the way out, she says like silent "I'm sorry" to the two knights who she's ditching. Basically, I think it's weird though because it seems like they're still all going the same way. Like. How big's Duskendale?
Well, she's going first. No, she's trying to go first. She wants to beat Shadrick.
But how big's Duskendale? Is she gonna get there and then like Shadrick shows up like the next day, like 3 hours later, well rested, and she's like, Sansa, knocking like door. You know what I mean? Like, what's she gonna do?
I don't know, man. She doesn't seem worried about that. Like,
I just don't know because it does seem like that she said she rode across the bridge, but she said she's like also like going off into the woods. I didn't know if she was like.
Oh, I think she's 100% just trying to beat them.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yep. All right, so she bails barefoot, gets her boots on, and hits the road looking for a girl of 10 and 3 with auburn hair and blue eyes, not named Sansa Stark.
Highborn maid with maybe a fat knight of 40 or a fool.
So, good luck to Brienne on her quest. What are your thoughts knowing where Sansa is? Like, you know where Sansa is.
That's what I was gonna say. This is kind of one of those first chapters, not one of the first, but it feels like it's one of the first in a while where we know exactly what's going on and the people don't, right?
Yeah, I think we had a little bit of like Arya trying to get to River Run when Kat had already left and like started going to the wedding of the twins and stuff like that.
Yeah, so that was a while ago too. That's kind of what I'm saying, I
Exactly.
guess, is it kind of came back here. This is the first time back into it again. And it's fun to have that insight, right? It's a little kind of one of those like, no, don't go that way, like or that.
But it can also get old quick. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Let me see, and it's not overused currently, I would say. It's not like that's like the whole plot of this book is we know where everybody is and nobody knows where anybody else is, and it's like annoying.
Well, yeah, and I think it makes sense for Brienne here. She's kind of like set off on this like impossible mission, right? Like
Exactly. I was just trying to find Duskendale on my map here.
North of Rosby.
Okay, there's the Erie. There's Duskendale, so it's way south of the Erie. Yeah, I mean, I don't know how she gets there.
Stone's throw from King's Landing. She's gone nowhere.
She really hasn't put too
Stone's
much
throw.
travel to her fresh new horse.
It's about a third of the way to to the Erie. Not quite that because you have to go the mountain way.
And mountains, like
yeah,
it's
yeah,
the
that's like
easy
a
third.
quarter of the way to the Erie. Yeah, I'll go to quarter Erie, quarter.
And it's not like has the Erie as a did she even say the Erie one time this chapter?
No, exactly. No, she has no idea where she's got to go. I'm just saying, like, that's how far she has to go. So we'll see. I don't know. I mean, the only thing that could really help her is maybe Danto's showing up dead, like his body showing up somewhere or something. The Kettle Blacks might know, I guess, because that was one of the Kettle Blacks that was on the boat, right?
Dad. Yep.
Yeah. So they're still in town. So they're not near her, though.
Yeah. I was gonna say, but she ain't.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, she's definitely. I feel like it needs to happen. I feel like this is the most outlandish one of them actually meeting up, and it should happen. Whereas the other ones, like Arya earlier and stuff like that, like where it's like, oh, they're actually going, and it's like that one felt like it was bound to happen, and then something crazy derailed it.
Princess in another castle.
This one seems like it has no shot at happening, like at all, and it's gonna happen. That's what I'm saying here.
Cool. Do you see the next chapter?
Sam.
Is this first returning POV?
I think so. Why are you asking? You know the answer. You could have just said it.
It's not. Come on, this is a production
kidding.
here, Jeff.
It is production, but it's something that like everybody that listens to us know that probably the next 5 chapters. So like just
yeah, but they like seeing you struggle just as much as I do to think about.
I don't struggle.
You try to remember the last.
You don't even know who
you struggle.
You don't even know who Damon Blackfire is.
Oh my god, I'm never gonna hit into that one. We'll see you guys in the spoiler section. We'll see Kyle in the next one for Samwell 1.
See you, Kyle. Bye.
Later, nerds.
Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert! Spoiler alert!
Bye, Kyle. See you on the next one. Now, on to the spoiler section for Brienne 1.
Bye, Kyle.
Jeff?
Brienne 1, baby.
First off, I want to say I sent you. I know you're not a huge Preston fan, not nearly as much as me, but I sent you and I showed you the part. Don't tell me you didn't even listen to any of it.
No, I didn't listen to it. I got home from work and we did this thing.
Come on. You only had to listen to like 5 minutes of it. I sent you part of a Preston Jacob video.
Do you want me to listen to it right now? Is it going to
Nah, we can listen to it later. It's only like a 5-minute section of the video. It is a long video though. I'll put the link to the entire series in the Discord. The part that I sent Jeff to was, if you just want to look it up on your own, is it's Preston Jacobs' Brienne playlist. It's the part 2 video, and it starts around like 5:30 is when he starts talking about this episode. If you're just trying to listen to what he says about this chapter, I think the entire Brienne series is pretty good though. Basically, he says there's like a big theme of sexism that everything relates to. I want to get your thoughts on it because I know you're not a big Preston fan, but I think that's some of his best stuff.
Give me the cliff notes.
I won't do it justice.
All right.
Again, it's one of the things that I think I could do it justice, or like I could say it, but like without like having the references and quotes that he has, it sounds kind of crazy. Like he says like penises are swords and shields are vaginas, and like Randall Tarley is the bear from The Bear and the Maiden Fair, and like a bunch of stuff like that. Which like when I just say that, it sounds crazy, but like he relates it all to sexism and stuff. So
okay,
again, you don't go into it now. I think it's one of Preston Jacobs' best things, and I think it's one of his more down to earth things. And again, it's more like theme related than plot related, which I think is interesting.
All right, good shit, Preston, on your work.
Yeah, I'll put it in the Discord. Into the normal spoilers, what you got?
Well, I'm trying to remember. I don't want the show to come in, but obviously we meet the High Sparrow and the Sparrows. All right.
So I didn't know if you would know that one, especially without watching. Preston mentions that, but I didn't know if you would know that.
So I didn't really pick up on it when I was listening to it, but as we went back through and this guy said like, "Oh no, we are like sparrows," and they like who they were. Like I understood that.
I kind of spoiled that a little bit too by saying that they were the sparrows when he really
Yeah,
didn't say
I don't
that.
think. I mean, Kyle should have kind of understood it because if you said it, like it's not like you like fucked it up, like that you didn't know that it wasn't a.
Yeah, it's
a
more
metaphor.
likely that I slip up by accidentally say something in the future that I just like missay something. Yeah.
But the guy having the thing carved into his chest, the star carved into his chest, was like, it's not the forehead thing, right? So this group is more chesty.
Well, Brienne says she like the story she heard was they would carve the star into their flesh. So maybe forehead, maybe like arm, maybe depends on how hardcore you are, I guess.
Yeah. So just meeting them, I don't remember. Like, I know Cersei tries to, like, use them as her other army, right? Like...
Yeah, so basically she's like, hey, we're the ones, out of all the kings, we're the ones that are back in the seven. Stannis has got the red gods, whoever's going on in the north has got the old gods, Ironborn got their thing.
And she gives them their power back, right?
Exactly.
This old group of the faith militant. And then they lock her ass up.
She tries to frame Marjorie for...
Being a harlot.
Yeah. Scarlet Letter. And it backfires. Exactly. So, yep, that's kind of where that leads. That's a good call. High Sparrow. What about this boy on the horse? Easy one. Kind of these two are the only like parts for that are similar to the show.
It's got to be Pod, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was my thought, is that it was Pod, but I thought, so what happened in the show? How did Pod become her squire? Why is he following her?
Jamie just gives it to her when he gives her the horse and everything.
Yeah, why is he just following her right now? Did Tyrion, like, Tyrion didn't send him...
He thinks Tyrion might be with Sansa. He's just trying to serve Tyrion still. And he thinks that Brienne has a good shot at finding Sansa. So she's like, I'm going to follow you.
So
you
he's
find
just
Sansa.
following her.
I think that's his motivation. It's a good question. I think that's what it is. Yeah. I think he's still just trying to be loyal to Tyrion. He doesn't really know where... He's only like 12. Or like, he's not old. Oh, I should have mentioned this to Kyle. Brienne's only like 20. Pod's 13. And he's out here on his own. Like, Brienne and Illifer, like Illifer the Penniless and Creighton Longbow were like, like you need us to like. They're standing watch. Roderick's out here riding a horse by himself at 13. Like, dude's got stones.
He's probably like he's probably sleeping at an inn tonight, right? Like he's not.
Yeah, he would probably just. I mean, I don't know. Like Brienne has money for an inn, and she's not sleeping at an inn that night.
Tyrion had to be paying him.
Yeah, but Brienne has money for an inn, and she's not. The one night she sleeps on the ground because there's not an inn.
Well, yeah, for sure. So he's got to set up a camp.
He's sleeping on the ground sometimes.
You got to climb a tree and tie yourself to a branch, Katniss.
It's a ballsy 13-year-old. I mean, he's up there with Arya, right? Like, give the kids
for
credit.
Sure. I mean, what happens if someone comes up upon him? They're gonna be like, "All right, I'm just gonna kill you because you're in my way."
Exactly. Yeah. So I think we find out that it's Pod soon. I also thought it was interesting that Kyle. I didn't know if Kyle would realize that because it's only mentioned like 2 times, right? That we see. The boy.
Doesn't a boy like? Does she call him a farm boy or?
I think the horse is the thing that she says the exact same thing. It's like a piebald gelding or something both times.
Yeah, I mean it's hard. It's hard for him to pick out it to be Pod. Like when's the last time we've seen Pod?
I just mean Kyle called out. He's like, "Oh, there's something weird about this horse." And he's like, "I think there's something weird about the septon." He said that at the beginning of the episode. So I think it's interesting that like the 2 things that me and you just talked about in spoiler section. Kyle doesn't obviously know who they are, but they both perked his eyes up. Like it's not often that Kyle kind of gets
why is the horse weird? I mean, obviously it's weird because the guy showed up twice and he's on Brienne's
Well, I think
trail.
the horse is the thing that makes it. It's like, oh, there's like a boy. The first time he's like a young boy or a small man. And the second time it's a farm boy. So the boy part isn't the same. I was just pointing out the horse because I think that's the thing that makes it clear. That the person she didn't see, that she saw and didn't talk to is the same. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but for I mean, obviously you should look up your boy. Like, why is this boy following Brienne? But like, for it to be Pod, like, I just don't think there's any evidence to point to.
Well,
it
and
being Pod.
if Crane says he rode past, which I think makes a hint that he might not be looking for Brienne.
I kind of when I was listening, it was like, all right, there was this boy who's kind of on Brienne's trail, and then this like group of a half a dozen people came up to like maybe fuck Brienne up. Like I didn't
think
know
those
if
two
it
are
was
unrelated.
like a Cersei deal, but I was like, it's like Pod's got to join her.
Yep. So those 2. The next one was whatever dreams Brienne had dreamed were gone when dawn awoke her. I don't know what this means, but it has dawn, which we always talk about. It's a very poetic line.
Say the line again.
Whatever dreams. So this is she wasn't trying to go to sleep with the Hedge Knight's about, but she does anyway. And when she wakes up, it says, "Whatever dreams Brienne dreamed were gone when dawn awoke her."
Damn. So she's not finding Sansa.
When Dawn awoke her, first thing makes me think is like, is she Nisa? Dawn is like, she's the one that's igniting.
Dawn's stabbing. She's getting stabbed. Jaime has to stab her with
to make Nisa with Oathkeeper.
Jaime stabs her with Oathkeeper. There we go. We just solved the book.
But isn't like, I mean, I thought Dawn was Dawn. Dawn is Lightbringer. Doesn't make sense if Oathbringer is Dawn. Dawn is the name of a sword. Lightbringer is the sword that we don't know what sword is Lightbringer.
Turns out that ice was always Dawn, and now
so that's interesting. I don't know. I don't think it makes sense, but we do know that ice, the name ice, is older than the sword ice. So the Starks had a sword called Ice. Then they got the Valyrian Steel sword, and they renamed that. They transitioned the sword name over. So I guess potentially Dawn could have been OG Ice. They got the Valyrian Steel sword. They're like, this is new Ice. Somehow old Ice went to House Dane, but I think we know House Dane is like founded around this like falling meteor, which is also where Dawn came from. So we're going down the rabbit hole. I thought it was a cool Dawn quote. We like Dawn, so it stuck out to me.
I could see Brienne being like a Nisa. Like, she's got a love interest now. She's got a dude in Jaime that like wouldn't want to kill her, but like maybe for the greater good, like would he do it type of thing.
Yep, exactly. So a bunch of the things I had, I think there's a bunch of Dunk and Egg parallels here, and maybe I'm reaching. Well, I mean,
this chapter definitely. Kyle was like, it read like it was Dunk and Egg. Like, she was just Dunk with no egg.
And then we're gonna get Podrick next chapter, and then we're gonna have our egg.
Yeah,
it's gonna be great.
I guess. Like,
and she gets her shield painted Dunk sigil next chapter.
Just randomly? How did she?
She remembered seeing it from her father's hall because Dunk's her ancestor. Because he left his shield there one day. Because Dunk's her dad. Some of the Dunk and Egg things that I thought were maybe, and I thought intentional call outs. You can tell me I'm reaching on some of these. When she meets the Hedge Knight, she stacks her arm. She says that their arms and armor are stacked by a tree, but she stacks her arms and armor by an elm, which is the same tree that is on Dunk's sigil and that he camps by in the Hedge Knight. When she's talking about the things,
maybe it was the exact same tree.
I mean, it's not near. They're not near Ashford, but the shield was one that Jaime had given her from the armor at Harrenhal. Brienne had found it in the stables with her mare, along with much else: saddle and bridle, chainmail and hauberk, visored great helm, purse of gold and silver, and a parchment more valuable than either. And then she talks about the parchment later. Her parchment is the same as
it's
Egg's
her boot. She had a boot. Yeah, I actually was going to write in my note that she had money and a boot.
Yep, she's got the same thing Dunk does. She's got to take it out, kind of. And then at the very end, when they get to the inn, a little stable boy comes out and says, "Oh, I can take care of your horse for you, sir." And she says, "I am no sir." And they get into that little thing. But that is how Dunk and Egg meet in the very first Dunk and Egg book. Is Dunk runs out, or Egg runs out, says, "I can take care of your horse, sir." And Dunk is like, because again, he's probably not a knight, and I think this might be when the idea to just run with it hits Dunk. He's like, okay, you know what? Go for it. Take care of my horse. Yeah. I am a knight. And he's like, your belt's made of rope. And he's like, or maybe Egg doesn't think he's a knight. This might actually be an inverse. Egg might be like, hey, you're not a knight. Your belt's made of rope. Your sword belt's made of rope. Like, what kind of knight are you? So, I think that's a parallel to when they had the because why else does the stable boy come out to help Brienne except to be a Dunk and Egg parallel? So that's what I think.
Oh gosh, you're so high on that horse. It's
I
crazy.
love Dunk and Egg. I love the Brienne Dunk and Egg stuff. And again, I think Preston talks about a little bit about this too. That even if they aren't related, there are like parallels in their story and their themes connect with each other. We're not big into the themes, we're not great at that stuff. So definitely, again, I'm not going to just repeat what he says. I'll link the Preston Jacobs thing. Again, you guys know I like Preston Jacobs. If you're going to watch any of them, watch the Brienne one of the top ones for sure. Last point, sword for a hero, when she's looking at Oathkeeper at the end.
Oathkeeper, yeah.
She mentions 3 people: Sir Galladon of Morn, Florian the Fool, Prince Aemon, Targaryen the Dragon Knight. Florian the Fool we know of, Aemon Targaryen we know of. I don't know if we knew Florian the Fool had a magic sword or a special sword. Interesting. But Galladon of Morn...
Who's Aemon the Dragon Knight? Which one is he?
You're not going to know much about him. He was a thing with like his brother was the king. He became a Kingsguard, and then he kind of had an affair with the brother. Aegon the Fourth is his brother, like the bad king.
Okay, he slept with his wife.
People think that Daemon, the one who is like the good guy in the Blackfire Rebellion, might actually be Aemon the Dragon Knight's son, because he was actually in love with Aegon the Fourth's wife, who was their sister, two brothers and a sister. The king married the sister, but Aemon the Dragon Knight was in love with the sister, so they had like, yeah, we don't know. There's rumors about an affair thing.
Okay.
So
all right, I don't need to go down that rabbit hole.
yeah, we don't need to do that. We haven't really have had the need to go down that rabbit hole yet. So, but yeah,
he's just one that likes Arya's definitely mentioned.
he gets name dropped as like a hero or a badass fighter a lot. Yeah, that's pretty much the extent of him. But yeah, so the first time we've heard though is Galadan of Morn.
I don't know that guy.
Yeah, it's I think it's only brought up one more time. So Brienne's story, she continues on to Duskendale, who I then think she gets sent to Maidenpool by somebody. I think basically a dwarf Septon tells her, I don't know if it's a Septon, a dwarf, I think it might be a Septon, tells her.
He saw a redhead girl.
He said, hey, I heard of a person saying that he fooled a fool. He went to Maidenpool. So I think she goes to Maidenpool. Then I think she meets up with Nimble Dick, who is this guy who said he fooled a fool.
And then does she get taken to a cave?
She goes to the Whispers, which is this old abandoned castle, which is there's a cave underneath where the waves crash in, and it makes like this whispering sound of like people talking, kind of. That's kind of like the first half of Brienne's story.
Her storyline sucks.
That's the first half of it in Feast of Crows. I think I know you don't love Preston Jacobs and it's a long series, but I think if you listen to some of it, you might start liking it because I think it kind of tries to explain the points of that story. But Galadan of Morn is when she's on the way there with Nimble Dick Crab. Nimble Dick is telling her about like some local heroes. I think I think he's talking about is Sir Clement Crab. And then Brienne's like, oh, I know some local hero. Like, he's like, you must have heard of this guy, Sir Clement Crab. And Brienne's like, why would I know of this guy? He's like a local hero. She's like, everybody has their local heroes. She's like, I have Sir Galadan of Morn. And he's like, who's that? And she's like, I don't know if he's a guy from Tarth, but she's like, he's a knight that I know of that's like a local hero to me. And he had this magic sword, but he would only use it against like worthy foes. And Dick Crab's like, that's stupid. Like some knight he's more of a fool, which again is this whole like knight and fool thing, which again kind of parallels back to the first Dunk and Egg story where Tensel's doing the story of Florian and Jonquil, right?
Right.
And there's the quote in there about fools and knights. Do you remember?
No, I mean, it rings a bell, but I don't know.
She says something like, all men are fools and all men are knights when ladies are concerned.
Yeah, that rings a bell for sure.
So I think Preston gets into this being like people try and be knightly and like kind of like how Creighton and Illifer are. Everything they're doing, they're trying to protect Brienne, right? They're not trying to disrespect her. They are disrespecting her by underestimating her, but they're not trying to be malicious.
They're trying to be polite gentlemen type of deals.
They're trying to be chivalrous knights, right? So it's like all men are knights and all men are fools. It's like, hey, sometimes by being the you're protector, the overly like toxic masculine type figure, you are making yourself a fool. She should be
protecting you. Like,
exactly.
Yeah, you look like
you look like a fool by trying to play this knight role. Like, know your place sometimes. And then the way in Dunk and Egg it says when women are concerned, all men are knights and all men are fools when women are concerned, which means like this whole like inequality between men and women in this society kind of leads to this like back and forth. Preston Jacobs, I think one of the interesting points he makes is Randall Tarley thinks that he's all about like justice because he's trying to like make things right, but like one of the things that happens in a later Brienne chapter is a whore gives several of his men the pox, and he has the whore's like vagina washed out with like lye, which would maybe kill her. If not, it would fuck her up for sure. And nothing happens to his men. It's like, well, somebody gave her the pox.
Right.
Like they all entered into this willingly. She didn't rape these guys.
They probably didn't even know that like it was a transmitted thing that they thought like they were probably like, oh, you just have a lot of sex. Like it probably just like comes on you for being a whore.
And even if that's the case, they like all the men that contracted this,
they partaked.
They were more willing
paid.
than her. Exactly, they were more willing than her. So why is she the one getting punished here? So it's like there's this inequality in this system, which just kind of leads to like Randall Tarley. And again, I think, like I said earlier, Preston kind of leads to him being the most extreme example of this like toxic masculinity being the same as chivalry sometimes. Like how it just doesn't actually equal equality sometimes. These guys are trying to be nice. They're trying to fulfill the role that they think knights should do, but still it kind of leads to them in fulfilling their role, they're disrespecting Brienne.
Right.
Like if she just showed up and they were like, hey, and they kind of do. They're like, hey, you stay on the first watch. You know what I mean? Like then that's kind of more like treating her as an equal. And again, to their point, they kind of do that. So again, I think some of that's like interesting. That's what Preston gets in. But for the sword for the hero, back to that, I kind of went off on a tangent there.
Long one.
Galladon of Morn, this guy had a magic sword that he would only use against a foe that's worthy. Because he thought it was not chivalrous or not honorable to use it against like a normal foe.
Yeah.
And now we have Brienne.
Okay.
Brienne's walking around with some bum-ass sword on her hip.
Well, I
she's
just
got
think
Oathkeeper rolled up in a... Right, it's a clear parallel.
I think it's more so because Oathkeeper's too flashy than it is like...
Obviously, it would bring a huge attention to herself.
She might be thinking to herself, like, am I worthy enough to be carrying this thing? Like, to actually be, like, just equipped with it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
And I think it's just like... I don't know. I think it's definitely like a parallel. Like, I don't think it matters too much in this chapter. It definitely matters. It comes up more when they actually talk about the story of using the magic sword. But it's the first time we get the name drop of that hero, Galladon of Morn.
Yeah, no, that makes sense for sure.
Yep. So that was all I had for this one. Again, I love the Brienne stuff. Definitely biased.
You just like Dunk. You don't care for Brienne. You just like that it reminds you of Dunk.
I don't know if that's true. I like Brienne too.
It's pretty true.
I want you to listen to some of the Preston Jacobs thing and let me know what you think.
All right, I'll give it a chance.
Because I think it does make some of this like Brienne stuff. It's like, what are we doing here? It makes more sense. Like if you're looking more theme based, which is something that we don't really do. But yeah, I'll quit harping on that. I've mentioned it like 10 times already.
Sure.
So we'll see you guys in the next one for Samuel 1. I actually want to say something about this one. Do you know anything? I've definitely told you. Can you think about anything about this one? Really cool. This is one of the very few.
It's the beginning of baby switch.
Beginning of baby switch, but this is what I feel like one of the very few chapters where we get the exact same scene from two different people's perspective.
Okay.
So this is Sam meeting with John.
And then we have John.
We won't get it until Dance of Dragons, but yeah, we get the John side of this conversation from Dance of Dragons. So I think that's a really cool part of this next chapter that on a reread we should keep in mind that the part where he meets with John, we're going to see that the other way around.
That is pretty cool and interesting. It's almost like you wish you kind of had the Battle of the Blackwater from like Stannis' POV. I guess you had Davos. You did have Davos. So.
We had Davos. It's cool because like what you were saying where the baby swap, I didn't even think about that. But in this next Sam chapter, when he goes to meet with John, he goes right after Gilly just met with John. And Gilly's crying and Sam doesn't understand why. And for most of this book, Sam won't understand why Gilly is upset for the entire trip. Like he thinks it's because of the ocean or whatever, right? But so again, I think it's cool because then when we see it from John's point of view, we see the Gilly meeting, and he doesn't really want to tell her this, but he's like thinking about Aemon saying "kill the boy" in his head the whole time, right? So when we see it from Sam, John's being harsh.
How many times do we have to read "kill the boy"?
I don't know if it's as big as it is in the show. It might be. I think it's in the book, so I don't know if it's as big. But yeah, we'll get into the Sam one next time. We're going long already. See you guys in that one. Bye. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe. Leave a comment on iTunes, Spotify. I think you can leave comments and stuff there too. Yeah, join Discord. Bye-bye.
Yeah.